February 6th, 2021. It's a bitterly cold day here in the North Star State, -2 degrees today. And I thought it would be a good time to go ahead and chime in on this protection piece that I've been hearing lately. I really thought that when it came to the protection discussion, in terms of the Native Black American woman and the obligation of the 20 million Black men in America to offer this blanket protection, I really thought that that conversation was over, in 2019, and that we would be moving on to more constructive and prosperous topics. But apparently I was wrong. I happened to catch Game Changer stream last night at the very end, and we chatted for a couple minutes about it. So I think that when it comes to the classic man contingent of Black America, that I guess we'll have to continue telling people how we really feel about this obligation that's been placed on our shoulders like a burden, unwanted, unsolicited, and ungrateful. Even if you were to give the protection that the misandrist banshees continue to propagandize about. But I think that today, after this discussion, I will have cleared up many things, because I'm going to be taking a very analytical approach to many of the things that the misandrist banshees claim that they're not protected from. And we'll see who at the end of this mystery is responsible for these misandrist banshees. Because again, I want to be clear that we make a distinction between those Black women that know that they're very well protected, those that know that if they're not protected, they have the state to protect them, and this group of women who are the loudest in the room, the weakest in the room, and the brokest in the room. But we hear you, and we're going to bring out some more clarification, because if there's one thing that I will say when it comes to controlling Black male narratives in this fourth industrial age, we're definitely going to be, the driver of that vehicle going forward. And no one's going to stop it because we're not beholden to any one platform. There's obviously you have the big tech platforms, and they're good for, getting out a message very quickly. But we also have our own independent platforms and our own individual platforms as well. So this idea that Black men controlling their narrative was just like, I guess, a trend during the Donald Trump era or whatever. Actually, we're just getting started. We're just now starting to master the tech now and understand the power of this tech. So this thing is about to really go into hyperdrive in terms of the 20 million Black men in the United States of America controlling their narrative. And I guess what makes me different than others, I don't speak for anyone else. When I get up on this microphone, when I put up a video, I'm speaking strictly for myself. And if there's brothers that are thinking, brothers that can relate to it, that's even better. But they still think for themselves. They critique me. They share information with me. And they tell me when I'm on the right path as well. And that's what I think that the best use of this technology is. So when you guys saw the intro, the woman that's actually singing that dirty blues song is a sister who was from Mississippi, where my maternal grandparents are actually from as well. And her name was Lucille Bogan. Most of you probably hearing those lyrics are shaking your head. And I want to shout out, there was a brother that sent me, some of this footage in regards to Lucille Bogan, but I'm not going to put their name out there like that. That's not what I do. But I want to give them credit for putting me on to the 1930s blues. Obviously, I lost my maternal grandmother back in 2001. So when I was a kid, she was big into the blues. That was a huge thing in Mississippi. For those that are big into hip hop now, think about it like that. The way that we listen to hip hop the last two generations, that's how big with a lot of the GI generation and the early boomer generation, they were really big into that blues, man. And Lucille Bogan, when she wrote that song, she wasn't like a very young woman when she wrote that song. She wrote that song To the Cows Come Home in 1935, and she was 38 years old. She was born in 1897. And, if you were just to strip the beat and you were just to put her lyrics with today's hip hop beat, she would fit right in line with Meg Thee Stallion, Cardi B, Lil' Kim, Katy Perry, and all these other, insta thoughts that make quote unquote music to type beats. So, those lyrics, they were deep. And I just wanted to kind of share a couple of the lyrics with you, so you could think about what she was saying and how that relates to this protection piece and this refound call for virtue among the Messenger's Banshees. So all these years, we're talking back, dude, this song was made in 1935, bro. So this idea of who these women were choosing, who was responsible for their bad decisions, this is nothing new. We're talking 86 years ago that this song was written. So here was the first, first two paragraphs of the song. It went, I got a man I love. I got a man I like. Every time I fuck them men, I give him the doggone clap. Oh, baby, give him the doggone clap. But that's the kind of pussy that they really like. I told him, I got a good cock, and it's got 4 damn good names. Rough cock, tough cock, cock without a bone. You can fuck my cock, suck my cock, or leave my cock alone. Oh, baby, honey, I piss all night long. You can fuck my cock or suck my cock, baby, until the cows come home. So I'm not going to read any more of the lyrics, but I just hope that sinks in. Just let that sink in for you all, bro. So we're talking about 5 generations of thought culture, right? So this thing is deep. Grandmama, we talking about little mama, big mama, big mama, big little mama. We're going all the way back to the Great Depression. This song was released at the peak of the Great Depression. So while, half of the population was either somewhere between almost unemployed or unemployed, sitting in soup lines, this was the kind of music that was being put out there by mainstream music studios. There were Black voices and Black creativity, but don't get it twisted. All this was controlled by mostly white men, specifically white Jewish men. So I just had to let you guys hear that track and just give you a little bit of lyrics. So this idea that the Cardi B's of the world and the Little Kims and all them are like something new. No, this is culture. This is 100 years, a century of regressive, degenerate culture that's now coming back around as, again, history does repeat itself. So like I said, she wrote that song in the middle of the Great Depression. The Cardi B #1 hit, WAP, was written in the middle of the COVID crisis, at the peak of the COVID crisis, at the peak of possibly a worse economic calamity than even the Great Depression. The #1 song in America last spring through the summer was WAP, right? But now, all of a suddenly, here we are, February 2021, a week or two away from Valentine's Day. And I suspect that there's some kind of correlation between, Valentine's Day being right around the corner. And I think that a lot of these women, because, shout out to the brother, David Carroll. He has this thing where he says he has a ongoing contest where he tells the Messenger's Banshees and the Swirl Concubines to find Waldo and present Waldo on their streams. And, they say that generally during the holidays are hard times for single people, and especially for single women. So you have like this string of holidays that pretty much starts to take place from November to about February 15th or whatever. So, basically November 15th to February 15th is a very dark time in a single woman's life. It really is. You got Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and then to tap it all out on the end. So like you got family, friends, and then love. Think about it like that, right? So like Thanksgiving is supposed to be a time of family, general family. Christmas is more of a time of specific family, your woman, your children, if you have children, but it's more of an insulated thing. Then you have New Year's. That's a time to celebrate with your friends. And then you have the cap end on that holiday season with Valentine's Day, which is supposed to represent a time of one-on-one celebration of your relationship with your significant other. And when it comes to the Messenger's Banshees and the Swirl Concubines, this is a very depressing time period, a 16-week period. And so I think that's why all of a sudden we're starting to hear this call for protection again. And obviously, you had the Meg Thee Stallion, the male horse article in the New York Times right before the election. and she was calling for protection after an incident with Tory Lanez. None of us were there. We don't know what happened, and I believe that the trial is still ongoing. But what we do know is that Tory Lanez, being a 5'2", 125 to 130 pound male, and Meg Thee Stallion being about 5'10" and around 180 pounds, she's tight. Like, she's not one of these overly fat type of broads. She's muscular. So let's think about that and how that directly is parallel to what's going on in terms of this this dimorphous, reverse dimorphism in Black American on average. So we know that the average male in America is about 5'9" to 5'10", and he weighs about 195 pounds. We'll just say 200. So we'll say the average male in America is about 5'9", 200 pounds, which is not good, because that body fat of males is somewhere about around average of 25%, which is really bad for men under the age of 50. You definitely shouldn't be over 20% body fat if you're under 50 years old for a male. So you brothers, if you're in that range, you got some work to do. But then when you look at the Black women statistic, it's something like 5'3", 180 pounds or something like that. The last time I checked for the Black females, like 180, 190 pounds. So when you look at the height, the women are actually bigger than the males are in 2021 on average in Black America. And that's why when we look at that Meg Thee Stallion situation with Tory Lanez, it's crazy, because the claim out there. So, again, all this is allegations, is that he shot her, quote unquote. Now, most men, you would think that us having more power, especially upper body strength, than female, just being like so much stronger, most men are not going to have to use a weapon on a female. But with the situation with Tory Lanez, him being around 5'2", 5'3", and he's not like a 5'2", 5'3" stocky guy. The dude in the police report, they say he weighed like 125 pounds or 130 pounds. So you're talking about a little dude. So if it does be proven that, oh, this guy used the weapon because he thought he was in danger, well, it was because the woman was much bigger than him in that situation. So we'll see what the outcome of that case is. But I think that's a good example of how this false narrative of protection, it's really something that I think is a seasonal thing. And I believe that, once springtime and hot girl summer 2021 post-COVID kicks in, no one will be talking about the protection piece. It'll be about, why didn't you like my page, or why didn't you retweet my picture kind of conversation. But for now, again, we got another week of the protection thing. Once Valentine's Day is over and there's no roses coming, no chocolates coming, no special video Snapchats coming, and there'll be a lot of tears shed. You know what I'm saying? It's a very sad day for a lot of women, bro. Like, you can only do so many galentines. You can only do so many of the galentines. That's a thing now. The feminists got a thing now called Galentine's Day. So even corporate America is starting to be like, yo, this spinster thing, this femcel thing is getting out of control. So you know that they're going to always go easier on the females. Men, they get no kind of empathy, and that's fine. It makes you stronger. But with the females, every institution is going to do their best to like be a shoulder for them to cry on. So in the spirit of empathizing with the growing population of lonely women, they're starting to use the term Galentine's Day. And this ain't like no underground type of thing. They're actually doing this at the corporate level now. Galentine's Day, where they got the little cars with the two women on them. And it's like a platonic thing, because they're starting to recognize that, with all this independence that these women got and them being better than men, allegedly, it's making them very, very miserable and sad. So, again, once these females, once Valentine's Day passes, the cold weather starts to break, it starts to get warm, they got those little COVID stimulus checks, and the smart chicks, they're like, they got 3-4 kids. They probably collected like 2-3 G's from the stimulus COVID check, and they're about to go straight to Dr. Miami, man. So the numbers and the appointments that people like Dr. Miami are going to have between March and June is going to be incredible. So if he has like some kind of stock, I would definitely invest in any kind of company that does like a lot of liposuction, ass inflation kind of procedures, because they're gonna be getting a lot of COVID money this spring. Because again, the COVID monies, and then you got tax season and the refunds coming around. So that's why March ends up being like the sunshine for that lonely spin sale woman. So when they talk about protection, the definition seems to be like ever changing. You know how it is when we have these conversations with the black majority, man. Nothing means nothing and everything means everything, right? Which is great, because I just now started rereading Neely Fuller's The Compensatory Code over the last week. I've been slowly reworking my way through that, and he's like, everything he says is the exact opposite of these so-called hotep foteps. And they all try to steal his words, but they've never actually read his material. And it's clear he's a conservative man. Shout out to the brother Grinch, bro. I appreciate that super chat, Grinch. Whenever you get a love from another content creator, that's a big deal. You know what I'm saying? So y'all support that, brother Grinch. Appreciate you, bro. So when we talk about the compensatory concept, and one of the things that Neely Fuller says that defines black culture. Now remember, I believe he's pushing 90 now, and he's an old brother. He defined it as tacky, trashy, and terroristic. Now that's coming from a brother that has been all around the world. He was in the Navy, in the military for the majority of his life. And then he became a government federal employee during the second half of his life. And he also got started in like really trying to analyze the situation of the culture and the position of the Native Black American male and female in this Western society. So when I look at his age being in his 90s, and then looking at the situation with Lucille Bogan's song, I got to take what he's saying as someone that's on the ground, having seen it over 4 freaking generations. This man might live to be 100. So you can only imagine the things that he's seen. So this culture has been passed down from, like I said, big mama to little mama to now your average ratchet thought today. And so all of a sudden, there's this very strange thing going on. And I call it the Pookie and Ray Ray Keisha White Cuck syndrome. So that's the Pookie, Keisha, and the White Cuck syndrome. Now you guys are like, the fuck are you talking about, Sigma? It doesn't even make any sense on the surface what I'm saying, but I'm telling you, bro, I'm starting to see a trend now. So all through our adulthood, if you grew up in the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, you grew up with this idea of the ride or die chick, the thotty with the fat, whoppy, and then she's riding with the dangerous Pookie, right? That was kind of like a standard. It was kind of a standard. So, the classic man, he said, all right, well, I'm not willing to put my life on the line to sell yay. I'm not trying to put my life on the line to gangbang. So let me go ahead and do this square thing, right? Whether that be white collar, whether it be blue collar, whether that be entrepreneurial. Those brothers just checked out. Probably about, I like to look at historical moments. So I would say probably starting around the time of 9/11. That's when a lot of brothers just checked out, man. And they started going their own way. And we saw the interracial thing really pick up, after that 9/11 time. And then it just went into boom, a whole nother level when Barack Obama got in there. So definitely for the last 20 years, more and more black men are just like, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. So what I'm seeing now is that after all these generations of women promoting this kind of promiscuous culture of riding the cock carousel, no responsibility, have as many kids as you want because the state will forever ever take care of you. Now all of a sudden, boom, they're looking at the horizon. They're like, yo, we need a plan B, because the classic man, he's not calling himself the plan B. So where can we look? Where can we look? And all of a sudden, they just somehow they found the white cuck. And I think we're going to have this conversation. It's not a comfortable conversation, but I think it's going to become more of a prevalent and obvious thing over the next 2 years, is that you're going to see more and more and more of these black women who have been run through. And this is where I have to shout out to brother BGS Idmore and Obsidian, because I think that they put, there's always some kind of upload or some kind of stream that really defines a moment. And I feel that when BGS did that, the myth of white womanhood, that was like a very magnum opus moment, a very good piece to look at. And then when Obsidian did the cleanup man is dead thing, right? But I think that we've moved beyond that now. So we're beyond the myth of white womanhood. We're beyond the cleanup man thing. Now we're at the white cuck. I think that's going to be defining, right? And I think that more and more of these white guys who, again, there's this myth that all white men are winning, that all white men are making money. No. There's a good amount of white men that are poor. Now, it doesn't compare to the poverty of blacks, it doesn't compare to the poverty of white women, but there's a lot of broke white dudes in comparison to their own ethnic group, right? Because we tend to judge things by our environment and by those that are around us. So for a white man, so we know that like the black poverty rate is somewhere around 20% before COVID hit. Again, we don't have a lot of data during 2020. It's going to come out late. So we're going to get a whole lot of data on the last decade at the end of this year. But based on what we have from 2019, the poverty rate was starting to inch up for blacks to around 20%. Now, again, the way that presents itself in real time, it's different for black men versus black women. So obviously, across all ethnic groups, women with children and no husband are the most impoverished. But that doesn't tell the story about how much assistance they get. So it may be true that they're impoverished and they're more impoverished than their male counterparts, but they get more assistance from the tax-paying public than the males do, which is why black men are the face of homelessness. And then you'll see white guys out there, Native American guys, whatever, out there as well. But 8 out of 10 homeless are black male boys or black men. So they get a lot of help when it comes to, this whole poverty thing. So as we, kind of approach this first quarter of 2021, and you start hearing more and more of these women calling for protections, they start looking around at the lowest common denominator across all groups, because again, that's their imprint. They've been messing with the lowest common denominator of men. They've been mating with the lowest common denominator of men for 3, 4, 5 generations. So it would only seem natural to me that they would start looking at the poor white guys to come save them. And this is pretty much like the last rallying cry. And I don't think that's going to work out very well from them, from their perspective. I don't think so. Because again, just getting sexually dug out by a white dude, I mean, that's not hard. You know what I'm saying? You go back and read like the autobiography of Malcolm X, and they were talking about the game back then, and that was like the 1920s and 1930s as well. That's why it's just funny to me, man. Like, you read the writings from these brothers back at that time, man, when they talk about the street culture and what was going on in society at that time, and it ain't too much different, as today. It looks different, and the background is different. You know what I'm saying? Like, the cars driving on the street are a new model. The buildings have a new design that's more modern. We have the internet and things like that, but that dynamic, it was always a poison dynamic. It just wasn't as widespread or known as it is today. Those white guys, they had a term for it back then. They called it slumming, man. This shit ain't nothing new. Slumming. And before that, it was just outright slave pussy. These white dudes was always driving down to the black areas of urban America. Generations to play with the black female prostitutes. This is nothing new. But those men had wives though, right? So in that culture, the marriage rate was obviously, the marriage rate was much higher, right? Close to 90%. So those men still had a woman to go back home to. So basically they would sleep with the black prostitutes on the weekend when they got their paycheck. And then they would take their dirty butts back to their white wife. And that kind of thing just went on for a long time. So what's happening, the variable that's changed is that marriage rate is going down for white groups as well. So there's a lot more single white men that are single for a longer time, and they're being virgins for a much longer time. So we know that the average age of the male American virgin is higher than it's ever been in probably human history. So now these white dudes are thirsty, man. They're looking for anything, you know. That's why you get the conversations about porn, artificial waifus, I think they call them, the sex robot thing. And then the white dudes are like, shit, I just want to get laid, but I'm broke. But now it's like the whole situation has balanced itself out. So before, these white men had to pay that toll. So if you wanted to lay up with those ebony prostitutes, you had to pay that toll. And if she wasn't checking your pockets, then the dude that was around her was like, you can't get access unless you're checking those pockets. But now it's kind of like a bailout plan. So there's like a bottom shelf Brad bailout plan that happened, where the culture itself and Hollywood and all of these women themselves, they've gone out of their way to say, you don't got to pay the toll no more. You don't got to pay that toll. You're a white guy. We're blessed to be in your presence. It doesn't matter if you're broke. It doesn't matter how many diseases you have. It doesn't matter how ratchet your character is. You're white skin. That's what we need access to. So I think we're going to have more and more conversations about the white cuck, because that's what I call him, the white cuck, because again, because the classic man is not doing the bailout plan anymore. Now that's the Generation X brothers, right? That said that we're not doing the bailout plan. And some of the boomers recognizing the poison. But now we're talking about millennials and zennials. It's not even a conversation about if you're going to bail them out, because the average millennial dude is not even looking at them. We're talking about more of the invisible standard now. When you're talking about the millennials and the zennials, we have to think about a term more like invisibility, because these dudes is not even looking at the racial aspect no more at all. They're looking at, is she attracted to me? Is she on my program? Does she cooperate? Do we match up? That's it. I don't care about the pro-Hotep black thing. They don't care, period. So if you're not on code with them, you're invisible, because there's other options out there. And I think what's happening is that white cuck is going to, so brothers is still talking about the Pookie dynamic, right? But I think that the Pookie thing, a lot of those women are kind of realizing like, yo, this dude can't do anything for me. All he's brought me is failure, pain, and misery. So even they are starting to look at that dude as being like below them and useless or whatever. And now they're looking at these white bottom tier guys as the best hope. Because if that doesn't work out, asexuality and lesbianism will go through the roof this decade. And like I said, I'm not betting that the bottom shelf Brad bailout plan is going to work for them, but we know that they're going to try. So while they continue to try, they're going to continue to hammer this messaging of protection. Now, so let's get back to defining this shit the way that we should be defining it by convention. When we talk about protection, we're talking about a person or thing that prevents someone or something from suffering harm or injury. That's critical, that piece right there. Suffering, harm, or injury. So now we got to dig into this whole harm and injury thing. So when we talk about the harms against black women and the injuries of black women, we got to dig into what are those harms and injuries, and who is doing these harms and injuries to these black women, okay? So, all right. So now I had to dig into the whole, the CDC's data, the Domestic Violence Abuse Network data, and the Health and Human Services. Because again, this ain't some stuff that they're going to put out there for the public in this age of political correctness and censorship. In fact, I'm sorry to tell you, brothers, but I'm going to have to re-download this live stream immediately, because it's almost guaranteed to get knocked by YouTube, because they've already struck my channel before. So don't be surprised if this is only up for like 24 hours. So I'll download it and put it on FS Avenger and BitChute. But looking at the data, right? So you listen to these Messenger's banshees, right? And they keep saying, the black man don't protect the black man don't protect the community. But I've never heard these women say that they pussy is open to the community. I've never heard these women say that their companionship is open to the community. I've never heard them say that their cookies is open to the community. The only thing that's open to the community is all the negatives for the man. From the male perspective, putting your life on the line, putting your freedom on the line, that's no benefit to me. It brings me no happiness to do that for someone that's not my family. You're not my tribe. You're not my community just because you got black skin. If that was the case, Africa would have been a united united countries across their 54 nations a long time ago. I believe there's over 1,000 tribes in just some independent African nations alone. So when you take the entire continent of Africa and those 54 recognized nations, I wouldn't be shocked that there's over 10,000 tribes of Black people on the continent of Africa. And my African people can give me the data on that if you feel. KingSigma123@gmail.com. I like that kind of information. So when you talk about the 40 million Black Americans, this idea that Native Black Americans are one tribe, I'm not with it, period. I'm sorry. And I know that there's a lot of Hotep communist types that say, well, we all is the same. No, we not. We don't even have the same origin on a DNA level. Facts. I know where my people came from. They came from Cameroon on my mother's side. I haven't gotten my father's DNA side yet. But on my mother's side, I know for a fact that our people came from Cameroon, the Bamaleki tribe, because I was part of a DNA study at my university in undergrad. And if you guys did a DNA test, you would find out something completely different. And that's just talking about the 500-year history. Now, when you talk about culture, because I think that culture is also defines a tribe. When we look at like the Native American nations of this continent of North America, there were hundreds of tribes. The Sioux, the Apaches. I mean, good God. There's so many different Indian tribes that I can't even name. But if you were just to look at Native American people's pictures, they might just look the same to you. The Utes, those that lived in California, those that were more mixed with the Mexicans of that time in the 1600s and the 1700s in America. They would probably look very similar to each other. And I think it's the same dynamic with Native Black Americans. Sure, many of us have very, similar brown colored skin, similar features that kind of like are distinctive from Africans, because you can tell a difference when you meet like those straight from the African continent and those that are Native Black Americans. There's a difference in the phenotype a lot of times because of Black Americans mixture. A third of us have white blood. I'm sorry to tell you, bro, but a third of Native Black Americans, if you have ancestors in America that have been here at least 100 years and you're Black American, there's a very good chance that 3 out of 10 of you 3 to 4 out of 10 of you have white blood. And if you don't have white blood, you might have Native American blood and some other groups that aren't even in this country that would never recognize blood too. So we're a very mixed kind of people. So I don't define myself based off of the lineage of being a Native Black American. I define myself off culture as well. So yeah, there's the lineage piece. You can't deny that. And we should always be proud of our history. But you're not going to sit up here and tell me that the guy that rolls down the street in the beat up 1965 Caprice with the fucking $1,000 rims that shoots up a house that kills like 2 innocent Black children, a boy and a girl that haven't even reached kindergarten in broad daylight, is in the same tribe as me. Tribes have sovereignty. Tribes have legal administrative powers, okay? So not only do you have your own jurisdiction and sovereignty over members, but you have a governing body that can punish. So if there's no punishment mechanism, then we ain't a part of the same tribe. Because if someone kills one of my little cousins, then I have the right to go back to the old way of doing that things. Eye for an eye, cruel punishment where we line you up on a wall. We're not doing the blindfold thing, though. We're not doing the blindfold thing. They used to have a little bit of mercy and do the blindfold thing when they did when they shot him up as punishment for capital crimes and things like that. We taking the blindfold off when we kill you. And we're not going to do it like with that level of mercy. If you're a child murdering bastard, we're lining you up and we're nailing you to the wall the way that they did Jesus Christ, bro. We're going to cause you a lot of pain. And then we're going to take those shotguns. We're going to line up 5 brothers that are experts with the shotgun and no head shots, no chest shots for the first round of shots. It's all going into the arms and the legs. So when you say you're a part of my tribe, then you got to accept that if you're a person that's doing crimes against the tribe that are capital crimes, you're murdering children, you're going out raping women and things like that, and you're doing fratricide against other brothers just because you can, because you want to be a menace, then that's the kind of punishment that you should expect. So if you ain't the type of person that is willing to deal with that kind of punishment, don't dare say that I'm part of your tribe. We are not the same, and I want nothing to do with you. You guys are your own tribe. Just like the Native Americans had the wild tribes, they had the more civilized tribes, they had the tribes that were strictly agricultural, they had the tribes that were more like the looters that lived off the agricultural, and then they had the most powerful tribes that had a balance between an economic system, agriculture, laws. Those were the ones that ran the block when it came to the Native American tribes. When you look at their story, the Native American tribes that had the more organized legal systems within their context, that had like a religion that gave them a philosophy, a morality, and things like that, and they had like a good agricultural scheme, a good hunting and gathering scheme. Those were the more successful tribes. And then you had those tribes that didn't grow anything, they didn't hunt anything. Their duty was to destroy and cause chaos for the other tribes and to take from the productive tribes. So that's why they were different tribes, and they knew how to deal with each other. So in Black America, believe me, there's many different tribes within the greater definition of Native Black American. So when you're asking for this protection piece, and this goes out to the messengers, banshees, and the swirl concubines, make sure that you know exactly who your tribe is and who's claiming you before you start just blatantly going out here in the mainstream public eye, puffing out your chest, waving your weave, and feeling real proud of yourself to down all Black men because of the 20% that it's been proven in study after study after study, conversation after conversation. You are the common denominator. You are the problem in your selection process. So before you start trying to arbitrarily claim that all these Black men that don't want nothing to do with you, ain't thinking about your part of your tribe, make sure that they identify you as part of their tribe too. Because if you're a Pookie lover, if you're a White Cuck lover, you're not part of my tribe. Because in my tribe, we would do the same way that the French did those females that betrayed them to the Germans. The same ways that all sovereign people have punished the women that betray their tribe. So I'm not going to get into too much because we're on YouTube about those punishments, but you guys all know that the kind of capital punishments that they did to women. But one of those punishments that they did to women wouldn't even affect the average Black woman, because one of the punishments they used to do is like cut off their hair, because that's considered a source of feminine power throughout history, is a woman's long, beautiful hair. So most of those women don't got no hair to cut off anyway. So shit, that punishment's off the docket. So you'd have to do other punishments like branding. I mean, it did some really, the men of those tribes and those cultures, they didn't play no games when it came to the women, bro. Like, they already had enough problems to deal with trying to manage the economy, trying to manage the household, trying to protect themselves from the different intruders. And they wasn't going to be having that business of the women acting out and betraying them as double agents. That shit is, it just can't be allowed to happen. So what you have out here is a bunch of double agent females who, on one end, they talk dirty and dastardly all day long about all Black men, which 99.9% of them they don't know, never met, and don't want nothing to do with them. But then the bat signal is thrown up. Because they don't have any virtue to speak of, these messengers, banshees, and these swirl concubines, they put up that non-virtue bat signal for those that got that real heavy scent blood. And I'm talking about that real heavy scent blood. They don't have a moral compass. Look that up. Some people just have no integrity and no moral compass. And just hearing some woman say, we need to be protected. I put out the Chad Wheeler video, number 13 for Surviving Bottom Shelf Brad. What surprised me more than anything was the comments that I got of those protecting Chad Wheeler. They wanted to talk about everything but the fact that this man was charged with 3 crimes of domestic violence and felonies. Everything but that. Everything but the fact that this woman was beaten and strangled almost to death. They wanted to talk about everything but that. So that was another variable along with Valentine's Day that kind of played into this renewal of this conversation around, protecting the Black woman from herself. So going back to the protection definition, and when we're talking about some of the things that the messengers claim to need protection from, number 1, STDs, right? So one of the biggest things that's threatening Black women is their uteral health, right? Their vaginal health is in a very bad place. And actually, because the fact that more men are just like checking out, that's actually helping the STD rate go down, because some men are just like, you know what, they're having less sex, right? Like, so in 2021, Americans are just generally under the age of 50 having less sex than any other generation. So that's helping the STD rate go down just because people are having less sex than before. But we know that like in this area, like a lot of Black women struggle with the health of their uteral, wombs or whatnot. And I guess there's a call that the classic man, because if you say Black men, that includes the classic man in that somehow the classic man is supposed to invent some kind of like permanent female condom, right? Because they already got, 3 or 4 dozen types of birth control. Most of it's probably free. But that's not enough, right? So it's not enough that they have the voluntarily temporary birth control. They want something more permanent. So I guess for all you science nerds out there and guys like that, they want y'all to create like a permanent, condom that could always be applied to them, I guess, like another level of skin or something, because, obviously the temporary birth control stuff, the condoms, the gels, that shit ain't working for them, period. Because the STD rate is disgusting. And I'm sorry to tell you, man. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. It's not something I take pride in knowing, that half these women out here are carriers of herpes and this HIV thing. I mean, this is disgusting, bro. But then they say, we want you classic men to protect us from the less than 20% of men that are giving us HIV and herpes and things like that, right? The rate of these are higher amongst the women than the men because they're sleeping with the same damn men. And we keep saying this over and over and over. And I guess we're going to have to just keep repeating it. So they come out with their protection. We come out with the stats. Protection, stats. And eventually they'll move on to something else. But this STD thing is one of the biggest things that are causing harm. Because again, protection means suffering harm. The damage that herpes does to the woman's like fallopian tubes in her uteral womb, HIV, what it does to her body. Your body is a temple, bro. Once that shit starts to deteriorate, and destroy itself, what do you really have left if you have bad health? So health got to be number one, followed by like financial security and love. So health, financial security, and a loving environment, those got to be 3 of the top things that a person wants to be stable with, right? So if these women are demanding protection from classic men for the suffering and harm and injury to their bodies from these diseases, I'm just asking these women, I'll make an offer. Do y'all want to go back to like a Handmaid's Tale environment? Is that what y'all want? Do y'all want Sharia law? Because before, for 100 years, y'all didn't want Sharia law. You didn't want the Handmaid's Tale. You didn't want patriarchy. But now in 2021, there's this low key. They don't say it directly. We want a restored patriarchy, but it's basically what they're saying without saying it. So then we got to talk about the single motherhood spinster thing, right? So we know that they suffer a lot of harm and injury from being single mothers. Because again, poverty itself is a suffering and a harm. There's nothing good about being poverty. There's a line in Wall Street, one of my favorite movies, where he says like, there's no nobility in poverty. No matter how you try to mix it up, no one wants to be poor if they don't have to be poor. Some people are born into poverty. Some people fall into poverty. You see what I'm saying? And the worst case scenario is those that are born into it, man, because you didn't have no choice. People that fall into poverty, they fell into it by choice most of the time because they made bad financial decisions. And anybody can fall into poverty with one bad decision. And that's why they say that the best friend is money in the bank. Because if you save your money, it'll save you. And that's a lesson I hope every brother that's listening takes to heart. If you save your money on the day you need it, it will save your black ass. So I'd rather save than be like just this spendthrift, buying everything kind of consumer, but that's me. But when you're talking about the single mother spinster, that whole definition itself and that whole lifestyle is based on suffering, right? And the injury, because it forces a kind of masculine kind of spirit on those women when they have to take on that responsibility of being the caregiver, the nurturer, the protector, the role model. And for most women, they can't handle that role. There are women out there that can do it. You do have that rare superwoman that can balance it, but even she will say that she would love for a masculine man with his shit together to come along and take off that burden. Believe me on that one. So those are just the unicorn outlier chicks, but they don't represent the other 90%. So then you have like, obviously when you look at the poverty rates across those lines, racial lines, the black women are like, it ain't even close. You know what I'm saying? It's just so high. They're the highest group in their poverty rate. And then it's like, when you look at little simulations of how animals behave and living creatures behave in like scarce environments, the trend is that they stop having babies. They have less and less babies the more impoverished the environment is. That's how it's supposed to work. But what happens is that when you have an artificial state that steps in, they take away that survival of the fittest scarce environment. So what you have is a growing amount of children, but more and more poverty at the same time, when that doesn't happen in nature. When the deers are no longer in Yellowstone Park, the wolf population automatically adjusts itself. And they say that animals don't have logic, but yet human beings in many ways are dumber than animals. Why is it that a wolf, they automatically, their population will lower when there's not enough deer and rabbits to eat? And then when there's too many deer and rabbits, then there will be more and more wolves and predators born until the environment finds equilibrium. And that's because, well, obviously they do have the artificial environment now because of human society intruding on, nature. But generally, if they're left to themselves, nature will find a balance. But that doesn't happen in like a civilized society like America, where you have a large welfare state, when they keep subsidizing and taxing more and more bad decision making. So they kind of get caught up in this little spiral because we have this system where people are so polarized on one or two issues, even though there's probably like 10 major issues that need to be discussed. So more and more subsidizing of bad behavior and bad decision making. And you just so nothing changes. And then we have to go to this domestic violence piece. That's the part I really wanted to get to, because my Surviving Bottom Shelf Brad series usually deals with like, rape, murder, and abuse, physical abuse. And looking at some of the data, it really underscores like the prevalence of violence in a lot of these single mother-led communities. And I think that as classic men, it's very urgent that we take a stand verbally against trying to group us in with the deviants, because it's always this attempt to group the classic men in the group with the others. And these people don't understand. Classic men are going to defend themselves, right? We're going to defend ourselves. And I think why a lot of the misandry banshees don't understand that is because they're coming in a situation where women on average do not do that. Now, we have females that will show up on our panels and in real life, and they'll have a conversation with us about how bad it is amongst the black women. But these same women will not come out publicly and go after these misandrous banshees and these swirl concubines who are muddying and destroying their image every day, that are putting out these horrendous, evil, black KKK kind of messaging. So they won't come out and say anything. But I haven't met any classic men that don't stand on their own classic man square. We're not trying to be the thug. We're not trying to be the Carlton either. The classic man is neither the Pookie or the Carlton. He's the man that's in between both. But he's going to defend himself and his right to exist. We're not responsible for your bad decisions. We're not responsible when he goes upside your head. We pay enough taxes as it is. And I'm tired of building for these hoes, man. All I do is build. I'm tired of building. More and more taxes, bro. I was so happy when Trump and the Republicans passed that tax cut. And anytime I do a capital gains, I don't have to pay any taxes on it. I just put it in the bank now, no taxes. But all that taxation goes to building so much, building so many roads, so much public housing, so many WIC programs, so much public schooling that doesn't produce productive and competent labor. All this building, and taxation that working black men pay, and we don't get anything really in return. Because shit, the roads and the highways are 75 years old. I live in a state where one of our biggest bridges collapsed into the middle of the Mississippi River a few years back because they weren't putting enough money into the roads. So the money that is taxed, it goes to all these non-productive kind of programs when that money should be going to the roads, securing our borders, you know what I'm saying? Giving people school choice and things of that nature. That's where the money should be very specifically targeted to the benefit of everyone. But no, they'll give more and more school school funding to schools that don't perform, whose teachers are not held to a high standard, and whose teachers union get away with all kinds of things. So I guess I'm just saying, as a working person, man, I'm tired of building. I'm tired of all this taxation. I want to keep more and more of my money and spend it the way that I want to on the things that make me happy. Yes, there's going to be a borderline taxation again, because we need security, we need safe roads and things like that. But that number is probably somewhere closer to a flat tax of around 10 to 15% maximum. And there shouldn't even be any taxes on capital gains. Fuck just the first 40,000, because all the money's going either to the bank or back into the economy anyway. So what happens if I make a sale for 10 G's and it's not taxed? I'm either going to save that money and go into the bank, which is going to create $80,000 in loans for small business, or I'm going to go into the economy and buy something I want, which creates jobs for those that don't have a job. So let me keep all my capital gains going forward. So when we look at this whole domestic violence thing and we go through some of the stats, they say that like a person is abused in the United States every 9 seconds. Now, on average, 3 women are killed by a current or former intimate partner each day in the United States. That's critical right there, because so much of the rhetoric around rape and violence against females would lead you to believe that it's just like some classic man walking down the block, dribbling his basketball, just, hey, there's a woman. Let me go pull her over into this alley and rape her. No. Most of the rape happens between a woman and a man, or either a woman and another woman. So like rape, domestic violence, murder, it happens with a partner that they've either been sexually intimate with or are currently involved with. This could be casual sex. It could be married sex. It could be boyfriend, girlfriend sex. But it's usually someone that they know. Most rapes are like that. Most rape is actually date rape or relationship related kind of rape. And when we talk about this domestic violence thing, it's actually not some strange man walking down the street minding his business that just sees like a woman in some shorts and some booty shorts or whatever and says, I'm about to go rape her. That's not how it happens most of the time. It's mostly someone that they know, someone that they chose, someone that they were attracted to initially on some level. And it says that 66% of female stalking victims are stalked by a current or former intimate partner. Again, we're talking nearly 7 out of 10 women that are stalked, that they say that they need protection from stalkers. They need protection from the men that they chose. Again, you chose that man that became your stalker. He had all the red flags of a stalker's personality. How do I know? All you got to do is go to the FBI's database and look up rapist, pedophile, murderer, serial killer. I've done it. Go look up the traits. They have certain like profiles that when some kind of like kid is kidnapped and the Amber Alert goes out, or some woman is raped, they have like sex offender databases. They have this profile and they go to work immediately, starting with the profile and template, right? So even in cases of stalking, the woman chose this guy who already had stalker personality traits, but she liked those personality traits in the beginning. She liked that he blew up her phone all day in the beginning. She liked that he showed up unannounced in the beginning. But then she found another dude that she wanted to get at, and then she dumps him, and he can't take it too well because he already had like a psychotic personality from the beginning. So again, when we look at the area of domestic violence related to stalking, nearly 70% of those are current or former intimate partners that those women chose. So again, I'm trying to find out, what am I supposed to be protecting you from if it isn't your bad decision making? Why does that fall on the 20 million of black men to protect you from your bad damn decisions? And now we got to get to the other thing that they see they need protected from. They need protection from their abortionist infanticide mentality that they've had since 1973. That's another thing that they're claiming they need protection from. So now it's the responsibility of the 20 million black men of America to stop these women from having abortions and being and stop the trend of infanticide. That responsibility is on the 20 million of black men now. It's not a micro thing, right? It's not their individual choice, they say. Even though last time I checked, the abortion law said her body, her choice, and my taxes. That's the only, now when we're going to have that abortion conversation about the protection, I will say this. Shout out to the brother Dallas Cowboys. Appreciate you for the support, bro. If we're going to talk about this abortion thing, where it's her body, her choice, and my taxes, the only part I want to talk about abortion is my taxes part. Your body, your choice, your bill, or your advocate's bill. They don't never want to have that conversation though. But somehow it's my responsibility that they will have killed nearly 25 million black fetuses by 2023. 25 million. That's my fault. Even though I don't have the power to tell you to or not to have an abortion in this generation. The last time a black man had that kind of power is 1972. That was the last year he had that level of power to go to the doctor and say anything. Now you could be arrested in some states for possibly going and trying to, it's actually considered a form of domestic violence now. In some places, you can literally be charged with a criminal crime for trying to force a woman to get an abortion. In some of the more social places like the UK and some of these Scandinavian countries, it's a crime to even tell your wife that she can't be on Facebook. If you tell her you spend too much time on Facebook, you could be arrested for domestic violence. So they got more and more freedoms to the level of entitlement than ever. And even that's not enough. Somehow, the 20 million black men in America, we're supposed to control if they decide to have the fetuses snatched out of their womb. So we don't get, now remember, the 20 million black men don't get a choice of us putting our seeds in their womb. Oh no, that's a privacy issue. That's a privacy issue. You on sacred ground making that kind of comment. But when the results end up badly for her and she has the Pookie's child, which she wants the least of, because we don't have enough statistics on if she keeps the White Cuck's child or not. That's the interesting thing. That's the data that I haven't seen yet. I wish that I could find the racial data on abortions, on like, if they ask on the question, you know what I'm saying? Like on the sense they ask you like your race and your lineage, right? They should start asking that racial question, bro, because that's important information. Because I'm almost certain that the percentages of the mixed seed is probably closer to zero of those that are aborted by these same black women who have private vaginas, but public consequences for what they do with that vagina. So you and I don't get to plant our seed in that vagina, but we're supposed to be responsible for all things that vagina does in the 24 hours that it has in a day. It's a very fascinating backwards mentality. And the quicker that culture dies, the better off everybody will be. So then, you know, we look at some more of the sexual assault data. The cost, you know, we got to talk about the cost. You know, we've been talking about taxation, but domestic violence in America costs around $9 billion a year as of 2021. Did you hear that number? Almost $9 billion a year in medical care, mental health services, and lost productivity to companies. It's closing in on $9 billion this year. That's how much their bad decision. I mean, and that's just one level. We just talking about domestic violence. We're not even talking about the abortion, how much that costs. We're just talking about strictly them making bad decisions in their mates and in their babies' fathers and their husbands cost all of us nearly $9 billion as of 2021. I don't know about the rest of y'all, bro, but I would love to have more of my money back in my pocket. I don't want to have to pay any more taxes. I think there should be a flat tax that basically only has like 2 tiers where if you make under $25,000 a year, you're exempt from all taxes. And the reason I'm not worried about those people is because they're going to spend their money in the economy anyways. And if you make over 26,000, let's say, then your taxes would be like 10%. So like 26,000 to 150K earners, you shouldn't pay more than 10% taxes. And then those that make like 151,000 and to whatever else, just 15%. So no one pays more than 15% taxes in America. That's me. That's just me talking based on how I look at the way that money's spent, the way I look at how they manage their budgets. And then, you know, they'll just randomly do a report, right? The government, and they'll be like, we lost $5 billion and we don't know what happened to it. And you're like, what the? Wait. You lost $5 billion and don't know where it went? Yeah, right. We know where it went, but the fact that they publicly done this numerous times, numerous administrations from the Democrats to Republicans, there's always every year when they look at their fraud, some kind of disappearing billions of dollars. But I don't know where those billions disappear to, but I do know that when it comes to domestic violence, $9 billion disappears from the taxpayers' pockets because these women continue to make bad decisions. They make bad decisions in black men. They make bad decisions in non-black men. They even make bad decisions when they become lesbians. That's what's so crazy about it. So at what point do you become the problem? If the trend continues to be these bad results, whether you're with a black man, a non-black man, or a lesbian situation, and it still get the same results, you are the problem. You are the problem. Because you're attracting that which you are. But yet somehow we get into this protection conversation. Somehow the New York Times, one of the most subscribed to mainstream fraud pieces out there, Megan Thee Stallion's front news, right? She's front page news talking about protection. It's just ridiculous, man. And then you get these guys, right? The guys that I call the non-virtue signaling guys. They play hero online behind their keyboard. They're heroes. They're Batman with the keyboard game, right? But you don't never see none of these dudes, no matter how many cases comes out about these women getting beat down, raped, and killed, come out and do anything. There's one case. Shout out to the brother Roastmaster. I appreciate you, bro, for the support. But yeah, I hadn't even checked any Cash App right now. I just kind of been freestyling. But I do appreciate you, brother's support. I definitely will check that, after the stream. But there's a case that I'm sure you guys remember. There's two cases, and I think they both were like in 2018. So there was this one case in North Carolina where this white mountain man got into like a public incident with a group of black teenagers. And one of the little black girls, she was only like a preteen, maybe. I think she was either 12 or 13. So let me say it again. A 12 or 13-year-old little girl, right, got into a straight up fist fight with a 300-pound mountain man. No bullshit. I'm sure you guys got the link. If anyone remembers that story in North Carolina, this dude was like over 6 feet, damn near 300 pounds, and he literally like TKO'd a 12 or 13-year-old girl, bro. And just let that sink in for a minute. There's nothing good about that. There's nothing funny about it. And it points to a sick fucking culture in Black America, bro. That a little girls would even be in a situation like that, where they would be having to stand up fisticuffs with a big ass mountain man in North Carolina. Now that was caught on film. He knocked the little girl into another dimension. Guess what? Guess what though? Where's all these Protect superheroes at? It's been 2 years. 2 years since that mountain man beat that little girl down like that. Where's all my Protects from that area? Silence. They've done nothing. No justice, right? I don't even think that the dude ended up being charged and pled guilty to anything in that situation because they considered it self-defense because it was in danger. And that's one of those states where, like, they really recognize self-defense. But what I'm saying is that it's been 2 years since that happened. Where are the Protects? Where's the Protect Justice League guys at? The Protect Avengers, who every time something happens, when it's a general thing that's not specific where they have to be held accountable, oh, we the warrior class. We the warrior class. We big and bad with these keys on this keyboard. If this keyboard was a Glock, I'd have 100 kills. They ain't did nothing. So let's fast forward, 2019. Everybody remembers that other big case out in Dallas. So the Dallas case, famous Dallas case of the would-be swirl concubine. She was chasing that white cock in the middle of the morning. But she thought that the kind of attraction, seduction techniques that works with the average Black American drone was going to work on that white man. That white man is into that slave play, bro. He's into that slave play thing, okay? So since about 2016 or whatever, this rise in the slave play thing, man, Broadway, movies, even trying to disrespect our native black historic figures like Harriet Tubman, they've been pushing this slave play thing, this ghetto gagger thing, right? They're big into this shit now, man. Calling white men massa. White boys coming on TikTok saying, hey, what is up with this shit with black girls calling us massa? I'm not in the slave play. Having to declare to the public that they're not in the slave play because it's so normalized amongst those women that are into that thing, right? So the Dallas situation, you had a woman, again, as a lot of us talked about it back then. This woman, she was looking for a white man in the middle of the morning, Dallas downtown or whatever. And something went bad. We don't know what happened, but from the word I got from people from Dallas was that it's a big swirl concubine bar that happened at. So that's all I know. And the camera just caught a confrontation between the white man and the black woman. I don't know if it was a situation where he refused to do slave play and was just angry, or if it's a situation where she refused to do the bowing down thing that's required of slave. I don't know. We don't really know what happened. All we know is that he hit her with like a 1, 2, 3, 4. And in her defense, man, she really took those punches, bro. Because again, I got to go back to that average height and weight thing, in America, man. The average male is about 5'9", 200 pounds with about 25 plus body fat. Whereas the average black woman is around 5'3" and shrinking by the decade, and about 180, 185 pounds type range. That's considered thin amongst a lot of American black women. They tell that girl, hey, you need to eat more if she's 5'3", 185. So when that white boy, he probably about 5'11", 6 feet, probably 180. So it was evenly matched in weight-wise, but he couldn't put her down, though. He couldn't put her down, bro. So when they talk about this protection thing, I don't know, man. Like, a lot of these black women can handle themselves when it comes to, like, physical defense. And I think that that gets understated. These ain't like no little petite 5'1", 100-pound Asian broads. You know what I'm saying? Now, these women are, they got a little bit of that muscle tone, a little bit of that Serena, build on them. You know what I'm saying? They got a little bit of that Serena Williams build on them. Because you ain't going to tell me that in a one-on-one between Serena Williams and her cuck that she's carrying, that she's going to get beaten. I ain't buying it. I'm putting my money on Serena every time, 10 out of 10 times, with her and that white dude she's with. She got weight on her, bro, and she ain't like no outlier in Black America. A lot of Black females be muscular like that, dude, because when I was in undergrad, and I used to run at open track meets, and I knew some babes that was from Jamaica that was on the track team, and these hoes was like very muscular, man. Now, they weren't as big as Serena because they were track girls, but they were, I'm talking like, for a female, if you get your body fat below 10%, that's equivalent to a man having like 5% body fat, the appearance on a woman. So these women was like fucking yoked for their size. So they be carrying a lot of muscle. So this idea that they can't protect themselves, that's not even 100% true either. But again, so we going back to the stats on the child abuse thing, right? When we look at the child abuse, another thing that they don't want to talk about is the fact that most children are abused by females. They're either their female caretaker or women somehow associated with their female caretaker, family or non-family. That's a really sickening thing, man. It's a really sickening thing. And then when you look at the effect on the children, when they say that over 15 million children every year are witnessing this domestic violence in the household. 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 7 boys will be sexually assaulted by the time they reach 18. So the claim is that, around 33 to 34% of Black girls and girls in general will be molested. Because again, the racial thing, the numbers change, but they just take the general number. So it could be higher or lower. And then for Black boys, we're talking close to 20% of them are sexually abused. And again, the biggest sexual abusers are women. If you watch My Hidden Hand of Sex Trafficking, you know that the agencies that are behind that monitoring, we found out that women are the #1 sex traffickers. So females are the #1 sex traffickers in the world, which we see with the Epstein case with Geraldine, whatever her name is, Maxine, or whatever that broad's name is that's on trial now with Epstein. She was the madame and the procurer, allegedly. And now we look at the child abuse statistics, and it's the caretaking females that are in either directly abusing the children or somehow bringing their children in contact with abusive personality types. Just think about that for a minute. Yeah, K-Max said Ghislaine. Yeah, Ghislaine, Epstein's alleged madame procurer. So that's why I put out that Hidden Hand of Sex Trafficking, because again, that was something I kept hearing about at that time. So I put out that video. I haven't heard much about that sex trafficking thing since then. Because when you start putting out the information, all they can do is either ignore it or accept it. But they damn sure can't get you to keep having a conversation about something that's been proven by the facts. So yeah, the biggest child abusers are actually women. And it really is sad that it's not even necessarily strangers that are doing it. It's actually those people that they have their trust in, because that's part of the game of child abuse, is that comfort level with the children. It happens when the children have trust in you that they will be along with you. And obviously with your caretaker, that's the most trust. And that's why you have a lot of these women who are running around with like really what is definitely should be diagnosed as mental illness with all this baggage from childhood, man. and they're looking for scapegoats because they're just crying, man. It's like that Black Girl Tragic thing, man. Crying in the darkness with a bottle of vodka, man. Watching a bunch of Lifetime Hallmark movies and shit, man. And having like YouTube access and Twitter access gives them a chance to vent at anyone that will listen. The white man ain't listening to that bullshit. White women are done with Black women, bro. That whole alliance between the white feminists and the Black feminists, that was always a temporary alliance, as all alliances between Blacks and whites will ever be. The Black woman thought it was a permanent alliance. She went all in. But even white women started saying like, yo, I voted for Trump. The numbers amongst white women voting went up for Trump in 2020, bro. Think about that shit and what it means for the future. The white feminists said, yo, we got what we wanted. We jumping off of that train now. We're going to start pulling back on the misandrist rhetoric. The Black woman like, no, Jamel Hill's like, no, we got to go all in to the death until every Black family in America is destroyed, until every Black woman that would ever even think about aligning herself with Black men is so fearful of being bullied and beaten down in the street by other Black women that they will never take the side of a Black man. That's the kind of misandrist shit that these Black broads are on, bro. Complete destruction of the Black family, and they're using the tactic going through the female because, again, they can't go through the men anymore. They reached the peak of the response from the men. Men are starting to talk about other things now. So now they're going after the women now. They want the Black women that are still beloved and cherished, the good Black mothers, the good Black wives, the good Black sisters. Now they're going after them now. The actual Black women that actually deserve the protection of the 20 million Black men, that small minority of women. Now the hordes and the misandrist hive are targeting those women now because they realize the men don't give a fuck anymore outside of just countering their narrative. But in terms of like genuine, I'm in this with you. No. Not on this side, at least. So now that's their target now. The remaining Black women that do get the praise and credit that they deserve from those collective Black male population. And they're like, yo, we got to get this women in this thing because the white women are turning on us. The Latina woman turned on them. That chick AOC out there, she told those Black women and them Asian women, she said the Asian women are the backbone of the Democratic Party now. Think about that. All that talk about the backbone of the Democratic Party, right? Up until the very election, the day after, Asian women, Latina women, East Indian women all took credit and got the microphone put in front of them by every major news outlet from CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Huffington Post, all of those little rags that you guys know about. The story switched immediately. The narrative switched immediately. So it was the Black women during the election and the campaign, and the day afterwards, not anymore. Y'all not important anymore. Thank you for being the mules of the Democratic Party. So they might as well just have a black mule as the symbol for the Democratic Party going forward, because that's all the Black vote is. And that includes the Black males that voted that way as well. You see what I'm saying? Because you ain't getting nothing in exchange. Kamala Harris, she was an artificial Black woman during the campaign, but as a vice president of the United States, she's an East Indian woman now. And that East Indian female population is about to boom in America over the next 20 years. They're bringing in so many of them East Indians over the next 20 years. That Mississippi Masala thing, that's going to be the norm amongst Black men that are thinking men in the next decade. You're going to see a lot of pairings with Black thinking men, especially those that are in tech with East Indian women over the next 20 years. Mark my words. You think I'm lying now, but just remember that Mississippi Masala movie, that shit was made by like in the 80s and the 90s or something with Denzel Washington, the Indian broad. So the idea was already out there for a long time. But you're going to start seeing that pairing more and more, especially amongst them Carlton Banks type Black men. Just watch. Because again, Kamala Harris is an artificial Black woman and an East Indian woman. So that symbol is out there now. That symbol is out there now of this artificial Black woman who is a mix with East Indian or East Indian. It is out there now. So that pairing is going to become more normalized over the next decade. So yeah. So I kind of want to go into this last segment. I want to go into this Twitter stream with you guys. And this will be the end of this. because I just wanted to give an example of this protection piece and how it relates to the swirl concubine and the misandrous banshees, who they have so much of that vitriol for the thinking black men, but they don't have anything to say to the white cucks that they choose, bottom shelf Brad and the Pukas. They have like an exemption from responsibility, because again, the reason that the women do that is because they try to play on your empathy and your guilt, because they know that those dudes don't have that. Those men are psychopaths and they have neurotic disorders. They know this. These women know this going in. So they know they're not going to get empathy, because that's one of the traits of the dark triad that they lack, is the lack of empathy. So they go to the men that obviously have empathy and they say, man, Pookie beat my ass. Bottom shelf Brad beat me down. Black lawyer man, do something about this. Black cop man. We don't like the cops unless we want to call the cops to get a black man killed, but black cop man, come save me. Black accountant, please put down the calculator and pick up the gun and get out in these streets and throw your life away for this black woman that's laying up under a white man. We're all one tribe, aren't we? So let me bring up my screen. Hopefully you guys can see it. Because, I used to do these like Twitter dives, and it's been a while. So I kind of just want to do this Twitter dive with you guys, and you can see, because it's unlimited trove of misandry, right? But this one is a case of a black chick that came online, and the sisterhood, they didn't show her no love. They didn't put this story out about what happened to her with that white man. So this is a story. I didn't even put this one in the Survivor Bottom Shelf Brad series yet, but it is a case that was out there that I was aware of. I just didn't have the time. So I'll share it with you guys right now. So let's see. All right. Hold on, people. Hold on 1 second. It's been a while since I've, done the screen share thing. So could you guys let me know if you can see my screen? Because it's been a while since I shared the screen, and I want to make sure that you guys can see it. Can you guys see the screen at all? So I'm going to just keep going. I hope you guys can see the screen. That's one of the things about StreamYard, is that we can't see the chat when we bring up the screen. But the reason that this Twitter thread was very interesting to me is because this is the case of a black woman who was beaten down by bottom shelf Brad back in the before the election, like right around the time of the election. And because of the election and because of the call for Black Girl Magic, nothing about the Black Girl Tragic could be spoken on during that time. So this case, it just pretty much was under the radar, but I had saved it in my file for a later date. And I'm going to bring up the screen because, again, they tell on themselves in so many ways, right? Like in this situation, her name is Choosy Lover. And that's the irony of it. So she goes by the name of Choosy Lover. But then again, like we were talking about when it comes to responsibility, who they choose, and accountability, you're choosing the wrong lovers in this situation. So she says, today is the day I break my silence about my alleged abuser, Christopher Michael Williams, with an exclamation mark, a cold bitch. For over 3 years, I've allowed you to abuse and disrespect, manipulate, and embarrass me. So let's look at the pictures that she put up. So this is from a woman who she calls herself a choosy lover. This is what he did to her. This is what Bottom Shelf Brad did to her, allegedly. Again, it's allegedly. She says that he did this to her. So we're just going to go by what she put out there in the public for public consumption. So if you look at her eyes, you look at her cheek, the busted nose. So that's the thing I noticed with Brad. Brad likes to do, he's big on that busted nose thing too, man. Because it's like, even when they kill the women, for some reason, they bust the nose. So I'm starting to believe that They attack the nose because it's an African oriented kind of West African phenotype for a lot of Black Americans that come from certain areas, genetically of that West African origin with the nose. So a lot of these brads, they attack the nose often. So she's bloodied up. She goes by Choosy Lover because she claims she's a choosy lover. They always pick a name that they, in their mind, defines them, I guess. So she says she's a choosy lover. So again, she even admits herself that she chooses these men that she dates with her name. And she called him a cold-blooded bitch. So you guys take a look at the mouth, but they always go after the Negroid kind of nose, that West Negro nose. That's like a symbol of difference. So they go after that. You know what I'm saying? They always bust the nose when they beat these women down. So here's more of a full shot that she put up. I mean, he did a number on her, bro. He did a number on her. Blood all on the shirt, blouse. She's not no little girl. When you look at her physically, she probably fits pretty much the size of I was telling you about that we have from the CDC on the size. And when you look at a picture of them standing next to each other, so she got a close-up of her eye right here. So he went after the eyes too. So he wasn't, this allegation that the man that she chose, beat her down like this. She got the picture, so I just want you guys to see this. Because, again, the misandrous banshees and the swirl concubines, they're not going to talk about this. They don't care about this. They felt like a woman like this put their election at risk. So they weren't putting out this story a week before the election, dude. Or a month before the election when it happened. So here's a picture of the woman that is the choosy lover. Physically, the weight size between her and this dude ain't that much different. He's taller. But weight-wise, I don't think that their weight is all that different. But she claimed that this dude beat her down and she gave him 3 years of her life. That's what she said. Now, I don't know if she was a single mother that would fit my theory about the growing trend of the white cuck being the cleanup man of Black America. I don't know. She didn't put that information out there, but I wouldn't be shocked if she, has a child by Pookie or Ray Ray, and now she don't want to deal with Pookie and Ray Ray anymore, and she's looking for that bottom shelf Brad bailout plan now. So that's just my speculation, because again, that's a theory I have, is that it kind of just, that's where it's at, because again, that classic man, he has removed himself from that dating pool for the most part, outside of a casual sex. So she gotta, where can you go at this point? You know what I'm saying? Like, where do you go? So then you have these guys, these abusive white men that, again, we don't talk about it, but there's a lot of white men that do things to Black women and non-white women that they would never do to white women, just on, on principle, right? Because there's always been this historical pedestalizing of white women's virtuehood, femininity, and motherhood. And again, when that white man looks in the mirror, he still knows that he came out of a white woman. So they have to find somewhere for their psychopathic tendencies, right? And their sadistic yearnings. So an easy target for them are non-white women, because they'll do things to the non-white female that they would never, that they just can't do. You know what I'm saying? Because again, when they look in that mirror, they see a white woman's reflection, half of them being reflected in that. That woman that raised them was a white woman. So they don't want to do the kind of abuse at the level that they'll do it to a non-white woman. When they see that woman, they see the reflection of everything that they hate. Because if you're a white racist male, that Black woman, a part of her represents a Black man, no matter how much she wants to shake that part of her, no matter how much she wants to deny it, no matter how much she wants to bury her head into the sand on this issue. She still has the reflection of a Black man, no matter what she says. And a lot of these white neurotic dudes that be with these Black women, that abuse these Black women, that's when that they get triggered, because they can get triggered, you know what I'm saying? Where that maybe they recognize that Blackness in them. Maybe something happened on TV where like a Black man was shot, and maybe she just said something like, that's wrong, that white cop, shot that Black man, and just instant trigger. Bat, 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 bat. And she wakes up and she's like, I don't know what the fuck happened. Like in the situation with Chad Wheeler. He thought she was dead, right? And he went back to eating his steak and eggs because something happened that just triggered him. So again, we may try to fool ourselves about this dynamic, but when that white man looks in the mirror, he sees his mother. When that black woman looks in the mirror, she sees more of her black mother, not really her black father on average, but that white man sees that black man in her still. So you ain't escaping shit. So I just wanted you guys to see these pictures. I'll read a couple comments from the thread to see what people said. So she said that my full story is on my IG and Bing. So this woman was very public about her allegation against this white guy. She said that she put it on Twitter. She put it on IG. She wanted the world to know that this incident allegedly happened. And then one of the brothers from this space, Black Male First Media, he's from this space. He actually responded to her and he said, Negro bid winch fails. And so she goes on and she says, now, you know what's so interesting about this? Now, let's look at, I just want to, before I read those, just think about, let's look at this story, right? So you got Choosy Lover. She's an expert at choosing the right man. Now, she has 1,400 retweets, 1,400 requotes, and 3,200 likes, right? Now, let's switch this around. If it was a black woman beaten by a black man or a white woman beaten by a black man, you can pretty much multiply this shit by 20. We'd be talking 20,000 retweets, 20,000 requotes, and like 1 million likes if it was a white victim, a white female victim, or even a black female victim, but the perpetrator and the alleged attack was a black male. And that's what I mean when I'm talking about this misandry thing, bro, and why it's so critical that classic men, in our small way, that we refute and counter this propaganda that they keep putting out here. Because we know that anytime someone with our skin tone that looks like us, we're all going to get blamed for it. So we're going to be very active in calling it out forever until it stops. So she says, I vowed if he ever hit me in front of my daughter. Oh, shit. She does have a child. Oh, damn. Damn. I don't know how I missed that, bro. Because I was telling you, see, this is what I'm saying. I didn't even know she had a child, but she has a child. So she goes on to say, I vowed if he ever hit me in front of my daughter, I wouldn't spare him mercy. This bitch Friday morning beat me the fuck up after getting caught in a lie. He's a jealous, controlling, cheating, lying piece of shit. I'm embarrassed that I even put up with so much. He had broken my nose while his child was in my stomach. So, oh shit, not bottom shelf Brad, not the white guy. She claims that her white God beat her up while she was pregnant with his child. Now, she already had a child, but she also has a child by this alleged attacker who was her intimate partner. She says he spat in my face and rubbed it in, choked me with a vacuum cord, took me place. Okay, he took, because you know they grammar be all fucked up for the most educated class, took me place and left me stranded, slammed my head into the walls, tell me I'm going to get raped and killed. Wow. Did you guys all hear that? This is what she's saying. She's very public in her alleged attack by her would-be baby father. Now she says, my daughter will never see you disrespect me again. You're so scared for her to find out who you really are, but you just showed her. I'm not his first victim. I praise the rest come forward. So she's alleging that this bottom shelf Brad is a serial abuser. Now, again, going back to the CDC data, remember what I said. They continually choose abusive men. And she just said it herself. She knew he was an abusive man, but he ran that game on her because there is no game. There is no value like the white value male. The white value male has all the game because he don't got to say shit. His game is in his skin. He has skin game. There is no game. There is no seminar. There is no 99.9 program that can match the white value man in the skin game. Bottom shelf Brad plays the skin card, and that shit works. She knew he was an abuser. She says that she hopes that other abused women come forward, but she still got with him. And she already had a daughter. Now, we don't know if the daughter was a Pookie or if it was by another Brad, but based on the paradigm that I'm giving you, I'm betting that that daughter is by a black man. I'm betting on this, bro, because I'm seeing a trend of black women who either they go from Pookie to Brad or they go from Brad back to Pookie. Because again, the one great thing is that the classic man is exempted because he already got standards. So you ain't coming to him with the child. You might find one simp dude like that in the classic man category, but on average, the classic man is like, not over here. So you got this escalator. So imagine an escalator going up and an escalator going down, right? So on one escalator, there's Pookie. And on the other one, there's the White Cuck. And now what we're seeing is this trend that just goes in a little cycle right now. Pookie to White Cuck or White Cuck to Pookie. So that's this dynamic. So when they're talking about all black men give them protection, they're actually talking about either Pookie or they're talking about the White Cucks they're laying up with, but they're blaming the other 99% of men. But at least this woman, choosy lover, she's being honest with her stuff. So I got to give her credit on that. She's saying that this bottom shelf Brad beat me, choked me, tried to kill me while I was pregnant with his child, allegedly. So she goes on to say, guys, I would get abused because a guy tried to holler at me when men like me for getting DMs, not responding, but receiving. So we have to interpret her the most educated woman's statement. She's basically saying that men find her attractive and they're trying to do some casual sex with her, but she's not responding. And he's very jealous and envious of the attention that she gets out in public or on her social media. Okay, so this brother right here, this is probably a classic man. Guy responds, he says, I feel nothing. You walked into it knowing their history with us as a group. And the worst thing is you protected the white boy. If it was a brother, you would have called the police trying to get him shot because you mad. Nah, stay over there. That sentiment right there that brother just hit right there, that's pretty much the sentiment that most black men I know have about these kind of unions. So I'm bringing it up for you guys to see again. But so he says, I feel nothing. You walked into it knowing their history with us as a group. And the worst thing is you protected the white boy. If it was a brother, you would have called the police trying to get him shot because you mad. Nah, stay over there. So that's really the sentiment that like a lot of black men have today about these unions. They don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like there's this idea that black men care. We don't care. We really don't. We want you guys to be happy. And once you ask for protection, ask from your husband, your boyfriend, or your casual sex partner or a family member. Stop trying to deputize the rank and file black men because that brother just put it out there. Another brother, not our problem. So then she says, I take me back, fuck you, Chris. So she's going in on the white dude. She's having like a public venting. So there's a lot of brothers that are in there letting her know like, hey, that's your protector. Go to the police or one of your family members because we're not with it. So another cat says, honest question. If your baby daddy was abusing you and a black man jumped in and beat the shit out of him, police show up and ask you and only you what happened, who are you going to protect? That's a damn good question. I like the way, that's a good question. I have to tell this brother, I think that she's going to protect that white man. That's my bet. So it's just a lot of brothers that letting me know how they feel about it, but I'll just read one more of her comments. I want to see what other comments she had before I close this out. But let me see. Yeah, okay. Here go one of these messengers banshees that I be talking about, bro. Y'all black men being real ignorant in this comment section. Now, again, I'm telling you, bro, they had this chick comes into the comment section, right? Check, let me bring this comment up. Nothing to say about the white dude, the abuser. Y'all black men being real ignorant in this comment section. Okay, I think the comments reflect a state of black men saying, we hear you, but we're not responding to your non-virtue bat signal. So instead of her putting the onus on this white man and the story that this black woman's telling, no, she wants to talk about what the black men are saying. And that's why I say the protection deflection. That's why I call it the protection deflection, because it's to deflect from all of their bad decision making and all their white worshiping ways or their thug worshiping ways as well. So I think she stopped commenting after all these brothers responded to her. So this cat says, I guess this is a case of black men not protecting black women. I pray for your safety and health in brighter days. Hashtag blame black men. So you know that blame black men hashtag was huge around election time. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and close that out. But yeah. So you guys had a chance. Shout out to the brother Humble Servant. He says good work. Appreciate you, bro, man. I definitely appreciate you, brothers, when you support. Wow, it just makes it let you know that at least you seem to be on the right track with some people. Because again, these are just my own opinions. But to see that other brothers feeling it, I appreciate that. So the brother Terrence Forrest says, it doesn't matter if he beat her. Did she file a police report or charges against him? No, based on the fact she posted on Twitter of all places. I mean, yeah, bro, but that's how it is, man. That's the strange thing about it, bro. Like these incidents happen, man, and they rarely get reported to the police. That's why, at least with the situation with the Chad Wheeler scandal, that female, she did put in a police report. So I think that was awesome that she saw how bad her decision was, and it almost cost her life. So at least she saw the error in her ways. You see what I'm saying? So she put in a police report. The attorney out there charged him with 3 charges. He did plead not guilty. So I will monitor that situation because I want to see what happens. Because I did a poll asking brothers in my community tab if they thought that he would be found guilty on all charges, some charges, or no charges, or if he would be invited to be the keynote speaker at the Essence Festival this year. And surprisingly, it was like 38%, I think, of brothers said that they thought he'd be some charge. And then the second highest was that even despite the abuse, he would be invited to the Essence Festival. So that tells you where black men really are in 2021, man. It's not no hate. It's only love. I actually created the Surviving Bottom Shelf Brad series out of love for the black women in my own family, being real with you. That's why I created that series, because I wanted to have like a record on the internet among other guys that do that similar kind of topic that shows that, hey, you can keep putting this white man up as God as you want to. You can keep waiting for that white knight on that horse to come, but there is a dark side to that skin game, because that white value male, that value in that white skin ain't went down. It's at least where it was always at or better right now. So that's what that's all about. That's why I talk about these stories, because a big part of the anti-black male rhetoric is about how great the white man is. Shout out to the brother AJC in Red. Appreciate you. He says, great show, man. Appreciate you, bro. He's another content creator. Y'all go support him. Again, when you get love from other content creators, that's always a great thing, bro. That's always a great thing. So yeah, when it comes to that whole white value male thing, these women keep raising that flag. But again, we're going to keep countering that narrative, because again, that's a big variable in their misandry. Because again, and I ask this question all the time. If white men are so great and they're so good, then you must also admit that their mothers are so great and so good. So it's this weird, 3-card Molly shuffle type of deal that they do, right? Where it's like these white men are growing trees somewhere in like the Garden of Eden. So the way that they tell the story, the way that the misandrist Banshee and the Swirl Concubine tells the story is like, on Swirl Mountain, there must also be like a Garden of Eden there. You see what I'm saying? There must be like a Garden of Eden where they find the white value man on a tree of ambrosia. So the white man doesn't grow out of a white woman's womb. She's not socialized. He's not socialized and reared by a white woman. He grows like they do with the fucking movie in the Matrix, like how they had those clones and shit in the little eggs. So the white man doesn't grow in a womb. He grows in an egg on Swirl Mountain, where they just go to pick these motherfuckers off a tree. Because that's the way they tell the story, right? I'm being honest about it. If this white man is so good, that's also a direct compliment to the white women that are raising them. And that's something that they don't want to admit. So if the white man is so good, it's because the white female is so great. Because we know the CDC has told us as well, black men are the best fathers in America. Black men are the best fathers in America. They're more loving, more caring. But this misandrist Banshee, she's the common denominator in everybody's problem. She loves that white man, but she won't give credit to that white woman. She won't call out the fact that that white man, he may be providing resources, but he ain't spending no time with the fucking children. That white woman is spending all the time with the children. She's raising that child. with his resources. That's the kind of arrangement they got. But when it comes to the black man, he's so bad. He's evil. So I guess there's an opposite to the Swirl Mountain Garden of Eden. There must be like a Hades garden where black men grow in hell in fiery pods. And somehow it's the curse of black women to have nothing but access to these fiery pods that all these evil black men grow in. So bad black men, even though 8 out of 10 black children in 2021 are raised by their mother alone, they're not taking responsibility for that, right? The black woman has a model for feminine nature. She's raised by black women. The black man has a model for a feminine character in blackface. What he doesn't have, for the most part, is a masculine role model for whatever reason. But 8 out of 10 black children are being raised by that black woman. So that black boy, his first example of black female womanhood comes from his mother and his female caretakers. So his response as an adult male tells you more about the environment and the caretakers he had than anything else. But she's not going to take responsibility for those black boys that she raises into savages that are out here in Harlem attacking women in wine stores because they said, no, I don't want you to buy wine. They raise these guys. They raise them. So when they say that the black boy is evil, then his black mother was the root of his evil. When they say that the black man is a failure, it's because his black mother was a failure. This isn't me talking. This is them talking. They say it all day long. The black man didn't do this. The black man didn't do that. The white man is, it's all day long, right? All day long. But we got to get back to the root. If the black boy is a failure, if the black man is a failure, it's because he was unlucky enough to be born to an anti-black male mother. Successful, good black mothers don't say these things. Black girls that love their black brothers don't say these things. Black women that love their black husband don't say these things. It's the misandrist banshees and her alliance with the swirl concubines that are putting out all this evil, dangerous rhetoric against black men. But we're going to ask the question again. If the white man is so good, is it because he was born in an egg on Swirl Mountain, or is it because he was reared by a good white mother? And with that, I'll go ahead and look at a couple comments before I get up out of here. But I do appreciate you guys sticking with me for the full stream. This was kind of a freestyle, based on the conversation I had with Game Changer last night, because it was just kind of stuck in my mind when I woke up this morning. Like, it just doesn't end, man. It just doesn't end. I just think that they will forever, ever continue to blame all black men for their bad decisions. And as soon as you start to put the lens of logic up to their arguments, they just kind of just like some Legos being hit with a sledgehammer. That's how weak their arguments really are. So let me read a couple of y'all comments before I get up out of here. Go back up here. The brother Ayande said, Cooking, appreciate you, bro, staying with us. Roast Master, he says, they're also screwing Jose, Kumar, Habib, and Brad. Oh, no doubt. That's such an easy thing, though. It's like, it's not even really, that's one of the reasons why I think that they really confused, because black men know the game, bro. Like, we know the game, man. Ain't no one tripping about what they're doing, because we're moving on. We're moving on, man. There's plenty of options out there, plenty of fish in the sea. Humble Servant says, good work. Appreciate you, Humble Servant. Candace Lupus, I bet she never reported to the police. Did she ever give an update? Well, when I didn't see an update in her from the thread, like what I read was all her comments, and the rest was just other people responding to her virtue, her bat signal or whatnot. Roastmaster says, hell no. She's an expert at choosing ass whoopings. That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, literally her name was Choosy Lover, and she's on the internet reporting about being beaten by Brad while she's allegedly pregnant with his baby. Because again, we can't just assume that because she says that it was his baby, that it was actually his baby. For all we know, because think about the narrative that she painted. She said that all these dudes that I don't respond to, quote unquote, are in my DMs, giving me the side eye out in public when I'm with Brad, and I don't respond. So how do we know that he didn't think that baby maybe not been his? Maybe he was acting envious and jealous because he believed that baby was one of those dudes getting in that DM. So we've only heard her side of the story. But I'm just saying, like, don't assume just because she's saying that is true. So his funny black male first is here, and he was actually in that thread. He says, that's why that white boy beat her. I don't know why they don't understand that the kind of behavior and attitudes that they can get away with black men, these white dudes ain't playing that game, bro. They're not used to that, man. In fact, it's so growing up, man, I used to have a white friend live across the street from me, and I'm talking about like being in the first grade. This dude used to curse his mother out all the time. Like, you white B, you white this, that. I mean, he used to talk to his mom like she was a dog. I mean, we were only like 10 years old. And I used to tell my parents, and they used to, because they already knew the game. You come and you say something like that to my man, I would never in my life dare talk to one of my male or female relatives or mom or father like I used to hear this white dude I knew talk to his mom. And I've heard a lot of people tell me that white kids talk real dirty to their parents. So you think that one of these white dudes is going to put up with your mouth, you're going to be seeing a whole lot of graveyards digging in Swirl Mountain over the next couple of years at this rate, because he ain't playing that game. He don't even play that game with his own mom, his own dad even. The brother LOM says, zero sympathy. Even Duncan. Somebody called her out in the comment section. Yeah, a lot of people called her out. It was some brothers spitting good game, letting her know, hey, if you choose the white value male and the skin game, then just stay over there, man. But again, like I said, man, we're starting to see a trend. And, I'm sure many brothers will report on it. But my theory is that it's an escalator between Pookie and the White Cuck going forward. So either she's going with Pookie and leaving the White Cuck, or she's leaving the White Cuck and going with Pookie. And I guess, when the year 2030 comes around, we'll probably be saying now we'll have to add the lesbian or a transformer escalator in 10 years. But for now, I think that's going to be the storyline for the next 10 years, this little escalator between Pookie and the White Cuck. So really, the protection narrative is not for you, even though they keep including you in it, but it's actually for the White Cuck and Pookie. So that's the problem between that little love triangle that Keisha, Pookie, and the White Cuck got. That's kind of like a personal problem. So they need to stop with the narrative. Leave us alone. So the brother, Mr. Reacher, says, notice she never says the word white. Bro, that's what I'm saying. They're so blatant with their disingenuous narrative. They won't say the word white. They never do. They won't say my white boyfriend beat my ass. Just like when Chad Wheeler did his damage, I was looking on ESPN. Either they didn't show Chad Wheeler's picture at all, but they never showed the female. They never showed the black female in her healthy state and her beaten state at one time in the mass media. I didn't see it. All the pictures came from social media. On the news, they reported Chad Wheeler, and sometimes they had no picture at all. Other times they showed Chad Wheeler, but never with her or never her alone. It's like they never showed there was a black girl involved, right? But the black chicks, they do the same thing. They won't say my white boyfriend beat my ass, but when it's a black man, that black precedes everything. It precedes everything. That's like a salutary title now when it comes to black male dysfunction. There is no situation where the black female leaves out the black if a black male is involved. So just like they use the term sir, Mr., and doctor in letter salutations, it's pretty much the same thing when they talk about a black man. Black man did it, black man. It's ridiculous at this point. Rubbish. So let me see. Black male first, he says, he got tired of taking care of Pookie's hell spawn in exchange for some gutter sex. See? Black male first. You see what I'm saying, bro? I didn't even know that she had a daughter until I read deeper down the thread, because I just put that story on the back burner. But I thought today was a good time to bring it up because of this protection piece and Valentine's Day. And again, David Carroll put out the challenge like, where's Waldo? But we know where Waldo is. If he is there, he's putting foot to ass. That's where Waldo is. Either he's not there or he's putting foot to ass, or he's somewhere growing on a pod on Swirl Mountain. You see? Let me see. So Mr. Research says, is the daughter going to be taught her white side? That's a damn good question on Mr. Research. That's one of your type of topics, bro. Like, that'd be a great topic for you to probably bring on, like, one of these women that, has children with the White Cuck and now she's with a Pookie or something, or a black man, and or vice versa. I think that's more your lane. That'll be a good conversation, though. You should ask those women, how do you raise your daughter? Because this is what I always found fascinating. Like, they say they have so much hatred for the white woman, but yet they hate whites and all this, but they love biracial. This is some weird shit, man. They hate biracials. They talk all this colorism shit, but yet they worship white men and are more than willing at the drop of a hat to reproduce a biracial. It's insane, bro. So they want to produce biracials from their own body. They want to produce that from their body. But then they talk about the colorism thing. So it's just ridiculous, man. So let's see. You can't just make this stuff up. And these victim black females expect a black man to wife him up after. Shaking my head. So that's another person that sees what time it is. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing, man. Just, it's crazy. But it needs to be put out there, man. So Turbattle says, I seen that Tavis Kelsey package comment, laughing out loud. Let me see. SKC, Bucks or Chiefs. Man, I'm a Bears and Raiders fan, so you know I don't have any team in this fight, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Brady goes out with the victory, though. So this is Jason Wolf says, Azealia Banks says she never called cops on her white male abusers because cops would take his side. I think DV domestic violence numbers between white men and black women are higher than being reported. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that, bro. I wouldn't be surprised. That's a good comment, though. So the brother Doc Phoenix, he says, apparently his friends and family have been defending him, saying she was crazy and violent and provoked the fight, and they have evidence. See what I'm saying? Like, it's, you know, that's why I call it the tragic arrangement, man. The tragic arrangement, because it's a union that I suspect is brought together more on a shared hatred of black men than an actual love for each other. You see what I'm saying? So it's like when you look at the anti-black misandrist, and then you look at the white KKK, the black KKK and the white KKK are really similar. You know what I'm saying? They both have that hatred for the black male, and you can't build a loving, lasting relationship built on hate. And that's why it always ends in the tragic arrangement, because they're brought together by a shared interest, hatred of black men. But these relationships dissolve in the chaos, abuse, and possible murder and death, because that hatred is, you know that saying about if you hold on to the blade of a sword too long, you're bound to cut yourself. And that's why I'm not really into the hate game. You know what I'm saying? I'm into the, eye for an eye game. But after you get your vengeance, then you move on. So, when you have that hatred in your heart, you're going to cut off your fingers and cut off your hand, and you might even end up killing yourself at some point. And I think that's what happens in the tragic arrangement, brought together by hate, and that same hate ends up destroying the union itself. Salute to you, Soul Provider, man. Y'all go out there and check out Soul Provider's channel. He's doing his thing over there, representing for the blurs out there. So the brother Ace says, there's a wise saying, if she is going to act like a man, she's going to be treated like a man. So with that, I think that's a great place to, end this stream. I've had a great time with you all. Everybody have a great weekend. And, with me, it's like whenever I just feel that energy and I have something to speak on, I'll put something out there. But otherwise, you got some good brothers out there that are putting out good content, good messaging, and you guys know who they are. So go support them. And with that, everyone be good. Next time.